Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to our anatomy class. So today we're going to talk about the female reproductive system. We have the anatomy of the female reproductive system. As we all know, that female reproductive system has organs located exclusively inside the body. The internal organs of the female reproductive system include the vagina, uterus, fallopian tubes, and ovaries. Unlike the male counterpart, okay, that you can see outside and inside the body, but the female, yes, is different. The vagina is a hollow muscular tube that extends from the vaginal opening behind the opening of the urethra to the uterus. It is a flexible structure able to expand and contract in width and length due to its muscular walls. Alright, so as you can see here, this is the female reproductive system. This is the side view. This is the uterine tube. The ovary is found here. The ovary is just little. Uterus is found here, where the baby, if there's a baby, will be the embryonic development will be in this organ, uterus. And this is the vagina. It's the opening actually, and the functions of the vagina include sexual intercourse for the husband and the wife, the partner. It's the pathway also for the baby to exit the body during childbirth, and it is also the pathway for blood to leave the uterus during menstruation. So there are three functions of the female reproductive system, that is the vagina. So as you can see here, the walls of the vagina are covered with mucous membranes, okay, which allows the structure to stay moist and clean, right? There's a mucous membrane. So there are also special glands near the opening of the vagina and cervix that provide lubrication during arousal to aid in sexual intercourse. So when there's arousal that occurs, so it's much easier for if there's arousal that happens. The hymen is a membrane of thin tissue that surrounds partially covers the external vaginal opening. So this is the tissue of the hymen may or may not be ruptured during intercourse, but it can also be ruptured by delivery or by pelvic examination, injury, or sports. So it can be, that is why the uterus also is a thick-walled muscular organ shaped like an upside-down pear. Look at this one here at this side. The muscles in this organ are some of the strongest in the female body. Do you know why? Because the baby is being formed here or stayed here. Although normally only approximately 3 inches long and 2 inches wide, the uterus can expand to accommodate a developing baby and work to push the baby out of the body during labor. I have experienced this one because I have 2 lovely children. The neck of the uterus is called the cervix, right? This structure connects the uterus. So in this part here is the cervix. The structure connects the uterus to the vagina. So normally the opening of this cervix is no wider than the width of a straw. However, during childbirth, it can expand to approximately 10 cm, allowing the baby to pass. Imagine how powerful our reproductive system is. So these fallopian tubes are located on either side of the top corners of the uterus. These structures, so these two here, as you can see, are the fallopian tubes. this either side of the top corners of the uterus, and these structures connect the ovaries to the uterus. This is the ovary, and it connects to the uterus. So during ovulation, the egg is deposited from the ovary into a French funnel-like end of the fallopian tube. It passes here to the fallopian tube, and tiny hairs sweep this mature oocyte, so here, through the narrow tube of the uterus, and typically fertilization occurs within the fallopian tube. So fertilization happens in if there's um, um, also sperm cells that like meet with the egg cells. It is the structures that are cut and clamped as a form of permanent birth control. So those women, though your moms or those women who wants to have permanent birth control, these fallopian tubes are being cut off. Okay, it's called tubal ligation, or commonly known as tubes tied. So what about the ovaries, Miss A? So the ovaries are the female reproductive organs. And what are the functions of these ovaries? This is for ovulation, that is to produce, store, and release eggs into fallopian tubes, and for endocrine functions as well. What I remember, this endocrine system we did study before, the female sex hormones, which is the estrogen and progesterone. So these main organs of the female reproductive system are found internally. There are several external support structures like the vulva, okay, which means the covering is a general term that describes the structure that covers the vagina and other reproductive organs. We call it the vulva, right? This is, we call this one here the prepuce, is the glans clitoris, labra minora, there's labra majora as the vaginal opening, and the Bartholin's gland as well. And this is the anus, this part here, right? This is so interesting to know, right? Did you pass out from your mom's womb? Did your mom give birth to you in through vaginal opening, or through C-section? Okay, you can ask your mom about that. The external structures of the vulva include the mons pubis, the labia, clitoris, and the urethra. So what are the functions of the female reproductive system? It is to produce gametes, which is the reproductive cells, which are also called eggs, okay, in females, eggs. And this secretes a major sex hormone called the estrogen. That's the female reproductive system function. Again, to produce gametes, which is the eggs for females. Those are the reproductive cells. And number two, to secrete this estrogen is the female sex hormone. Okay, what's the role of the female reproductive system? Is to produce the oocytes, or the eggs. In females, gametogenesis is called oogenesis and occurs in the ovaries. So the eggs that are mature female gametes not only provide the other half of the DNA during fertilization, but also organelles, building blocks of compounds such as proteins and nucleic acids and other necessary materials. So as you can learn more here, estrogen is the main sex hormone in females, and estrogen has two main functions. Number one, during the teenager year, estrogen causes the reproductive organs to develop. It also causes other female traits to develop, such as the breasts to grow. And number two, in adulthood, estrogen is needed for a woman to release eggs. So on average, a woman releases only one egg each month from her ovaries. That is the reason why female or woman has this menstrual cycle or menstruation, okay, or periods. What are the disorders of this female reproductive system, right? Click this one here. Endometriosis, is one disorder of the female reproductive system which occurs when this kind of tissue that normally lines the uterus grows somewhere else, such as on the ovaries, behind the uterus, or on the bowels of bladder. Okay, so there are symptoms for the female. It includes the pain, infertility, and very heavy periods. That is one disorder. And what's the cause? It's not known, but pain medicines, hormones, in some cases surgery are used to treat this disorder. Okay, endometriosis. Next one is polycystic ovarian syndrome. What is this? Okay, it is caused by a hormonal imbalance that doesn't allow eggs to fully mature, leaving the ovaries with fluid-filled cysts. It's dangerous too. And this causes ovaries to produce high levels of androgens. That is actually the male hormones, not the female ones, because the female hormones are called estrogen. So it results in excessive hair growth, acne, and weight gain. So patients will miss these periods or have irregular periods. You have this cyst, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS. Okay, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Okay, this is how my sister-in-law have this one. It's a hormonal imbalance. Right. So next one is bacterial vaginosis, or BV. This is an infection in the vagina caused by changes in the amount of certain types of bacteria, and this is dangerous too. And any woman can get it. How? But it's treatable, of course, with medicine from your doctor or nurse. But if you left this untreated, it can raise your risk for sexually transmitted infection, or STIs, and cause problems during pregnancy. We have also vaginal yeast infection. This is a very common disorder. Do you know why? Because it is caused by the imbalance of the good bacteria in the vagina, because we have good and bad bacteria in certain parts of our body. But there's imbalance of this good bacteria in the vagina that controls this yeast. Okay, yeast infection. So what happens this? So female experience burning, itching, and thick white discharge if you have this vaginal yeast infection. But it can be easily treated with an oral or topical antifungal medicine. And last but not least here that I have to talk is the ovarian cancer, which forms in the tissues of the ovary. Okay, women with high risk of ovarian cancer are those with harmful mutation on this BRCA1 or BRCA2 genes associated with this breast cancer. Right, so those women with a family or personal history about breast or ovarian cancer are at higher risk of developing this ovarian cancer. So these women, you can check with your doctor, okay, regular checkup with your doctor. We have also uterine cancer, and it forms either in the endometrium or in the uterine wall, and we have the cervical cancer, which starts in the cervix. So I will be telling more on this as we go along. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.